Greg, Cote, I wanted to get your thoughts here on something that has been on the docket for about 5 days that we have not gotten to, which is that Xavien Howard, the cornerback for the Miami Dolphins, who has more interceptions than anyone in the league over the last 3 years. He's been exceptional for the Miami Dolphins. And for some reason, Brian Flores continues to run on the wrong side of some of his best players. You can make the argument that Xavien Howard has been the most productive Dolphin over the last couple of seasons of any kind. And he wrote on Instagram the following: I've given my heart and soul to the Miami Dolphins franchise since they drafted me in 2016. I want to make it clear that I love my teammates. They are my family. But what I've learned is that the business side of the NFL proves organizations don't always have a player's best interest at heart. My experience with the Dolphins the past few years has taught me that. In 2018, I signed an extension that I'll admit I didn't completely understand or feel comfortable with. I played on that deal for 2 seasons, didn't complain, but everyone knows I've significantly outperformed that deal. I'm one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL, and the tape backs up that claim. The assignments I'm given, shadowing the opposition's best player with little help, proves my value, my worth. Yet, I'm the second highest paid cornerback on my own team, and it's not even close. I want to clear up a few misconceptions about my situation. My agent, David Cantor, and I have never once asked for a completely new contract. We wanted things to work out with the Dolphins and brought solutions to the table, like guaranteeing more money. We felt were win-wins for both sides. These were proposals of adjustments that wouldn't just make me feel more respected, but would also be cap-friendly, but the Dolphins refused everything we proposed. That is why I don't feel like the organization has dealt with me in good faith. I don't feel valued or respected by the Dolphins. Just like they can take a business-first approach, so can I. That's why I want to make it clear I'm not happy and have requested a trade. Until that trade happens, I'm just here so I don't get fined and will handle myself like professionals do. Greg Cote, you are consistently pro-management, anti-labor. You are consistently a homer on behalf of the Miami Dolphins. What are your thoughts here?
I wrote a column late last week that Xavien Howard is 100% right here. The Dolphins have made a mess that they need to fix. And I think they've had 16 months to see this coming. And you know the level of frustration that happened in private in the background for it to come to that Instagram post where he's requesting a trade and being very specific about his frustrations. 16 months ago in free agency, they signed Byron Jones to a contract appreciably better than Xavien Howard's contract. Byron Jones, who had 2 interceptions last season to Howard's 10. Xavien Howard's the best player in the league at an essential position, arguably the most valuable position other than quarterback. And the Dolphins need to make this right. It's not going to set a terrible precedent. You don't renegotiate everyone's contract. You treat players differently. You keep happy the best players on your team. If it's a lousy guy, a backup requesting a rework contract, then you take a hard line. If it's Xavien Howard and he's not even the best paid cornerback on your team, you got to make that right.
Not everyone is using just interceptions as a stat. So many people will look and say that Xavien Howard is a top 5 cornerback, not the best cornerback. But regardless, he is somebody, however you're doing the measurements, that is one of your best players, if not your single most productive player. The thing that jumped out to me that I have not normally seen in these situations is him saying in his trade request, my brother, my fellow cornerback that I'm in all these meetings with. It's one thing for you to say it, Greg. For him to put his name on, I'm underpaid compared to this guy, and It's not even close. Saying that boldly, I'm better than this guy and deserve more money, you don't see that very often.
No. And again, for it to come to that point publicly, you know that the frustration that was building up and building up and building up over the past 16 months, not just this training camp.
I actually agree with what Greg is saying, but I'm going to wear the fan hat right now for a second and do the spoiled athlete thing. You didn't understand the deal that made you at the time the highest paid cornerback in the league. I understand how that can happen, but the fact is you set the high water mark, and since then people looked at that contract, and that's how the NFL works for every position. Joe Flacco has a ridiculous contract, and Matt Stafford has a more ridiculous contract. We keep building up, and we keep complaining about when does it end. This was 2019 when he signed this deal. At a certain point, you got to kind of honor that, no?
I would say that the frustration that they have as collectively bargained partners is you got to honor that right up until the contracts are one-sided and the teams can rip them up whenever they want. Their objection is actually to their own management, to their own players union, to their own structure that they agreed to. They're railing. And this is why I thought you mentioned Don Van Natta or or Gaylord Perry, as we like to call
Look,
him.
man, it's easy to mix them up.
Don Van Natta wrote a story explaining to you, hey, the players union has done some unseemly things here. DeMaurice Smith has been an ally to the owners in a way that has allowed these guys to get railroaded in ways that they don't even understand. And here's Xavien Howard saying, I'm in a bad system. Most people would agree with what you're saying. He has been objectively better than anybody who is playing the position on his team, and he's looking across. Imagine if that was happening in this workspace here or in yours, Greg, where someone is putting their name on, I'm not paid correctly according to our structure. I should be paid better than this guy who's my teammate, who's in these meetings. I was surprised to see that sentence in there. It's different for you to say it, Greg, than for him to say it.
I totally agree. It's not surprising that he would think it, but to put that in words publicly was surprising, and it expresses exactly his anger and his frustration at this whole situation, and that the Dolphins let it get to this. I think the most natural thing in the world is to compare your salary versus other people's salary, particularly people you work with. And it's one thing if the quarterback's getting paid more than you, because that's a positional thing, but for another cornerback who you're better than, getting a better deal than you have, I totally get that frustration.
You realize, though, that basically what he said in social media form, this is why I'm finding it to be so interesting. When do you ever hear I'm better than Byron Jones? Because it's what he just said. This dude that I'm in a meeting room with, who is my teammate in a team sport, the ultimate team sport, I've just put my name on. Hey, you guys all know that I'm better than this dude, right? It's
Right.
just not something you see very often.